Hello, good friends. Welcome to Just a Cup on Believe, your go-to podcast where big ideas meet everyday hustle, served up with a splash of humor and a dash of heart. I'm your host, Bryan Fetzer, part motivational coach, part president, part coffee connoisseur, um, and really your friendly neighborhood guide to conversation that really matter. Whether you're steering a ship into a C-suite, touching base in a workplace, or just really trying to get through Monday without losing your cool, this is for you. Today, I've got an amazing guest who's really mastered the art of turning personal struggle into organizational strength. He's the leader behind Simple Mental Health, a program that's helping leaders build workplaces where mental well-being is as normal as their morning coffee is. We will both be having that during the show. It's just essential, right? Give it up for Adam Nemer. Welcome to the show, Adam.
Oh, thanks, Bryan. It's great to be here. I appreciate the opportunity to chat with you.
I'm so excited, and mental health has become such a massive topic now across every aspect, whether you're talking about schools, churches, sports, businesses. So I'm excited to kind of talk about it. And your story starts well before the company Simple Mental Health. You know, you spent 2 decades in leadership at Kaiser Permanente, which I could never ever say Permanente.
Permanente. I learned how to spell it naturally on a typer. It means ever-flowing stream, by the
way. Which is a massive corporation. While managing undiagnosed, depression and anxiety. Can you kind of tell us kind of what the turning point in your life was when you kind of realized something, had to change?
Oh, man. Well, so I had experienced 20 years of severe but undiagnosed depression and anxiety. I had no idea. I mean, I kind of had an idea, but the stigma of the illness and the shame and the lack of understanding of it in America was such that I just kind of let it be in my subconscious. One day, what happened is I had a triggering event. I'd lived with worsening and worsening mental illness, and it just got worse and worse over the years. And then I had this triggering event of I found my mom after she passed away. And that event put me into, I had a complete emotional collapse in the days following. At the time, I was the head of the operations for Kaiser Permanente's health plan in the Pacific Northwest. So running a multi-billion-dollar healthcare operation. And I started wearing Levi's to work, T-shirts, flip-flops. I mean, it looked like I was going to the beach, not running a multi-billion-dollar health plan. And I was mean as hell to everybody, right? 3 weeks later, a national Kaiser leader walks into my office on a Monday morning. By the way, what had happened is earlier in life, when I was 29 and getting groomed to run my family business, I had found my dad after he died of suicide. That was my first event that started all of this. And I didn't get enough help that I needed. I got an MBA. I got married. I went and had this huge career, but I got no help for my mental illness and dealing with that experience of finding his suicide. And so then 20 years later, finding my mom was the thing that really pushed me over that edge. And, you think of like a Coke can or a Coke bottle. I'm here in Atlanta, so a Coke bottle. If you shake it up, it takes a lot of, eventually that cap's going to pop off. And that triggering event was her passing. And so I'm mean as hell to everyone. I worked for 3 weeks. One day I walk into work on a Monday morning, and a national Kaiser leader stops by my office, and he's like, "Hey man, how are you doing?" I'm like, "I'm doing great." Wearing that mask of happiness that I had just worn for 20 years. And he's like, "Well, I know now about you finding your dad's suicide, because no one knew. No, I didn't talk about it at work. No one really asked me ever." And he goes, "I know you just found your mom. Are you seeing a therapist? Is that why you're doing so well?" I'm like, "I don't need to see a therapist, man. I'm doing great." He goes, I'm sure you're doing great, Adam. His presence of mind to say that is impressive to me to this day. He goes, but, I'm not worried about you, Adam, now, but, do you know the signs to look for in yourself in case you might need to get some help down the road? As I say no, he pulls out of his pocket the business card of Kaiser's Employee Assistance Program in the Northwest, slides it across the table. Oh my God. And he goes, dude, call Poppleton. Dave Poppleton was our leader of EAP in the Northwest at the time for Kaiser. He's like, give Poppleton a phone call. You should at least, you've had these traumatic experiences in your life, and you should at least know the signs to look for in yourself in case you need to get some help down the road. I'm like, okay. I didn't recognize, I was so out of it. I didn't recognize what was going on, the obvious thing that was going on, right? I go and saw the EAP counselor the next day, and I got the checklist, and over the next week was when I crashed as a human and got to that low point where I had to call out and reach out for help. And that's the beginning of this 8-year journey. But what had happened is that national Kaiser leader came to see me on a Monday. The day before, on Sunday, he was in a mental health first aid class at his church. Can't believe the world works like this.
That is very fitting. I'll just say it's very fitting.
It's unbelievable, right? So he's known me for 7 years, and he's seen me grow in my emotional thing. All of a sudden I change. He's in this class at his church, and they're going over the signs and symptoms that someone might be struggling with their mental well-being. And he's like, Adam. Oh my God, Nemer checks all the dots. He's in a lot of trouble. Next part of the class, when they teach you how to approach somebody in a safe, thoughtful, caring, non-judgmental manner, was when he came up with the idea of giving me that EAP business card the next day. So a senior leader at a $90 billion business becomes mental health literate one day. The next day, in a 5-minute conversation, got me on the road that then gave me the opportunity to save my life. And so that's what Simple Mental Health is here to do. We are here to teach leaders in all professions and industries, for profit, not for profit, how to have those 5-minute conversations like David had with me. And we teach them why it's so important.
When you took time away to, start therapy and began sharing your story publicly, what kind of made you decide to really be vulnerable and do that? Because that's not an easy thing to do.
I think perhaps a little bit of my own illness at the time and a little bit of hubris followed by a little bit of logic. So, after I saw that EAP counselor, I took about 6 weeks off of work, starting antidepressants and all that, going to therapy and all that sort of stuff. And I had to think about, am I going to tell everybody what's going on at work? Well, at work, what's going on? David knew, my boss knew, and my senior leaders knew, because they had to run the health plan while I was gone. Right. But I had to think about, am I going to tell them? I'm like, if I tell them, I'm going to get fired. They don't let people check these boxes, run $3 billion companies. That was a stigma in my head.
Right.
I'm like, and the work that I need to do to get better, a lot of self-care activity away from the office, isn't necessarily conducive to having a successful corporate career like this. So so I'm like, I'm screwed. I'm going to get fired. Right. And then I'm like, well, I'm going to get fired anyways. I might as well take the path that leads me to getting better.
Right.
And then what happened is, and this is perhaps where the hubris started coming in, is I just, there's this phrase that I think it was President Truman who coined it. Like, it's something like, not all readers are leaders, but all leaders are readers. To me, what that, ever since I heard that, what that's meant to me has been, it's a leadership is not a stagnant position. Mm-hmm. It's not like, algebra. You're constantly absorbing new information from the world and adjusting your style appropriately to be a more successful leader, right? And what I learned in those first 6 weeks, part of my first 6 weeks of therapy was a lot of myth busting, right? Because I had to break the stigma that I would take antidepressants, that I would need therapy, all that sort of stuff, right? And so what I learned in that process was that 1 out of 5 Americans, now it's 1 out of every 4, but back then it was 1 out of 5 Americans every year experience a clinically diagnosable mental illness, right? And less than half of them get help.
Yeah.
And the median time period from the onset of symptoms to first reaching out for help is damn near 11 years. So I started thinking about this I'd been a 20-year population healthcare executive. I was trained to think like a population health person, even as a finance leader. And I'm like, man, I only have 400 or 500 people on my small team here at Kaiser. That means I got 80 or 200 people that are going to be in just as much pain as I'm going to be in, right? Oh my! Right. What if I had that many people who are going to have cancer this year? What if we had that many people who are going to have breast cancer that year, but waited 11 years to see the doctor? I'm like, this is not okay. And so what we did is I took that mental health first aid class that David had done at his church, and we brought it into Kaiser. We rolled it out in our teams in Portland.
Wow.
Part of a pilot for us nationwide. And we took all 400 or 500 employees out of work for, 4-hour increments over the course of 2 weeks. This is a 4-hour class. Right. Executive staff all together. And we learned the core tenets of mental health first aid, how to help people get help, how to recognize the signs that someone's struggling, how to approach them in a safe, thoughtful, caring, non-judgmental manner, and how to guide them to services where they get help. And it's core basic stuff. We basically, in that training, we all learned how to have 5-minute conversations like David had with me. Right. But we also learned, and that's where I learned, I'm out of the closet. By then, I was out of the closet, right? People knew.
Right.
Let's just keep going. And so what happened is over the next 2 years, I just decided I was going to be open and honest about it, right? Now, with other senior leaders around the country, I'd say about half of them were like, what's up with this dude? And half of them were thinking it's great, which I was right. I think in most companies I would have got 90-10, right? So I was great with this. I work for a great company. And so I was every single day, if I was having a panic attack, I asked my therapist once, I'm like, what do I do if I'm having an anxiety attack in a budget meeting with my senior leadership team? She goes, well, what do you do if you're I have Crohn's disease. She goes, what do you do if you're having a Crohn's disease flare? I say, well, guys, I'm having a Crohn's flare. I got to go home. She goes, well, tell them you're having an anxiety attack and you got to go for a walk. If you're going to be out of the closet and be open and honest, be open and honest about it. Part of what my thing was, I never talked about these things for 20 years. So talking about it was good. Right. And so over the course of the next couple of years, I'd be in a meeting. I'd be like, guys, I'm having an anxiety attack. I'm going to go for a walk, get a juice down the street. Anybody want to come for a stroll? That was my normal behavior. Now, I wasn't trying to be a good leader.
Right.
Not that I was trying to be a bad leader, but I wasn't doing this. I'm just doing it because my therapist told me that's what I should do. I was trying to get healthy. What I didn't realize is that in retrospect, what I learned was that when a senior leader opens their mouth and shares their challenges with mental health on a day-to-day basis, everything changes. Because over the next 2 years, it was the only thing we talked. Over the next 2 years, the only thing that we did different on our teams in the Northwest was train everybody on mental health first aid. And I came out of the closet and I told everybody what was going on every day, right? 2 years later, We had some of the highest employee engagement stats in the company, in the health plans. We had the happiest staff as we could measure it. But more than that, on almost every key health plan operations key performance indicator, teams in the little bitty Northwest were number one in the company.
Wow.
Turns out.
When leaders are transparent and try to be transformational as opposed to very transactional, it's amazing how much difference can happen. And I learned that late in my career and did a terrible job early on. So just you saying that is so, there's so much truth to it.
You know, there's these, and there's stats behind it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, so there's studies show that people who struggle with depression alone, you can miss on up to 35% of your productivity, right? So that means, clinical depression, your work output in a 5-day work week, you're getting paid you're paying for 5 days and you're receiving 3 days of work output, right? That's what that means. That's the work impact, right? Oxford MBA program 2 years ago found that people who are happy improve their productivity 13%.
Wow.
So what we found, another stat, Gallup Group found that Americans who struggle with their mental well-being, who rate their mental well-being as poor or not good, right, miss or have 472% more unplanned missed work days each year than those who say they're having a healthy mental health. So what we found is we weren't running like a wellness initiative program, right? We were just talking about mental health, and everybody, those 100 people that would naturally get help wouldn't got help, right? Because we were talking about all the time, so we kind of self-selected, and what we learned was that it was over a 20-year career at an $80 billion company that kept training us over and over. It was the best. Mental health literacy training was the best performance improvement and team development program I ever participated in. Made lives better, and it made us number one.
I don't think that would be in the blueprint for many companies initially without just thought. When you're, hey, we're going to do this, and this is going to help productivity. This is going to help increase. Most people, because it's not thought of as common nature, I couldn't see any companies doing that.
If you're listening to this podcast right now, think about your company right now. Now think about how many employees you have. Now let's say we'll take a conservative number, multiply 15% of them have depression, say. That's a conservative number. I think recent stats show on average in America could be 17% annually. But let's go conservative, say 15%, right? So 15%. Now that number's in your head. Their productivity is 3/5 of what it could be. They're missing 470% more work days. Oh, by the way, if they're a millennial or a Gen Zer, they're going to quit. 50% of millennials and 75% of Gen Zers have left a job in part due to mental health reasons. So now look at your stats. So if you're listening, let's say you got, that's your business impact from not talking about this. And this doesn't even bring up like the intangible stuff. Like I was an asshole all the time. When you can't control your emotions, you're always in fight or flight, right?
Right. True.
And
very true.
Trying to have a team conversation. Can you imagine how team dynamic gets impacted when 20% or 25% now of your teammates might be in fight or flight during the team meeting? I think about, I can't help but wonder how great our performance could have been over those years had I been at everyone around me not exhibiting me in fight or flight, and not knowing I was in fight or flight. So there's that team dynamic element. I'm a recovering CFO. I just see dollar signs all over the place.
Hey, a quick reminder, you're tuned in to Just a Cup with Bryan Fetzer on the Believe Network. Subscribe wherever you get your podcast. You can watch on YouTube at the Coach Fetz Just a Cup channel. But before we jump into the final stretch, a quick word about the episode sponsor. PsyOptimal is your personalized, precision-based assessment and consultation partner for mental performance and well-being. Find out more on psyoptimal.com or check out the PsyOptimal YouTube page. Now we're back with Adam, and we're going to kind of change the subject. I'm going to change the subject a little bit more, and I kind of want to dive into kind of culture and some personal insights with mental health. I mean, when you talk about mental health, it touches really every part of your life, including sports, which that's something I've been a part of for a very, very long time. Have you drawn any insights from the athletic side of things into tackling mental health challenges? And you come from the business side, but coming into the sports side.
Well, what my big aha in working in the sports community has been thinking about them as an industry and as a business. You know, I've gotten to know a ton of folk from the American Chiefs Executive of Sport, Rick Mack's organization, ACES, through the Sports Philanthropy Network that Roy Kessel runs. What I've come to become aware of is an absolute crisis through the sporting ecosystem. Just like there's this crisis in healthcare workers, right, crisis in construction workers. Construction workers, number 2 suicide rate in America. Construction workers. Number 1, oil and mine workers. Right? This is everywhere. Wow. It's everywhere, right? So I go to all these industries. They go, "Oh, we're worse than the teachers. Oh, our teachers, we're the worst. We got the worst one." This is everywhere. So my aha has been this. When we think about sports, we think about you think about what do I see on ESPN, right? Brian Phelps, Simone Biles. Hey, everybody needs a coach. If a coach is good for sport, if an athlete needs a coach, and that's basically it. But what I've learned is that the business of sport is in a bloody crisis. From the senior level leadership at the executive directors of national organizations to the grassroots level. First, there has been more pressure put on the sporting movements now. I mean, it's hard to be an executive there right now with concussion, keeping kids, all the horrible things that you got out that happen to kids. It's another keeping kids safe from predators work. All of this really important work that has just created a lot of stress and anxiety and depression, all of that amongst the people that are implementing this, right? And now you think now at the grassroots level, they're struggling to find local umpires, local volunteers. People don't want to be volunteer coaches because parents, the parental community, by the way, parental mental health is one of the top 10 population health priorities of the Surgeon General still, even though we have a new Surgeon General, right? So being a parent is so hard in today's age that the mental health of parents is so bad that it's a top 10 population health priority of the country, which means that it's just, you get it. Parents are more toxic, right? And so the world of sport is from grassroots level to the most senior level, the entire sporting ecosystem is in a mental health crisis. And they can, but what's awesome is they get it and they can do something about it. And it's easy. It's like, God, it's taking these 4-hour classes. This, for the love of the universe, this shit's not complicated. Excuse my language. I'm a recovering CFO, and I put together a business and I train people on mental health first aid like stuff. If I can do this, anybody can do it.
Hey, okay. Let me talk about that simple mental health real quick. So when you think about teams you've led, whether it's corporate settings or now with simple mental health, what does a win look like for you? like in terms of maybe both the business impact and maybe kind of the human personal impact? As I'm starting to think about when you start, because thinking about wins from a sporting standpoint, it's wins. Hey, it's very clearly defined. You win a game, you lose a game. You run fast, you don't run fast. But when it's come to mental health, it's what's a win look like? Is it somebody getting complete help or just recognizing it?
So what does a complete win look like for a person?
Yeah.
On a personal level?
For a person or a business. Kind of both. We talked about the business. Yeah. I mean,
so for me, I have this picture in my head that a past president, long since retired, this guy named Andy McCulloch. Andy, he was one of the first things I ever heard him say when he first came to our organization as our president was he said, it's not okay to have good performance results if you leave a wake of unhappiness behind you. That I just heard that early in my career when I joined Kaiser. And it stuck with me because it said, whoa, it started me down this road. You can be you got to win and not run over and bring people along with you. Right. And then, so for me, winning is a balanced scorecard. It's not just having you can't be successful financially and with your customers and your processes if you're not focused on the foundation of your people and your culture. That's what it's all about. And then another great leader that I worked with, a colleague named Dwayne Rogers. He has this great line. He goes, you know who a leader is? You'll say this to him. Who's a leader? And they go, the biggest title, the CEO, whatever. He goes, it's not the person with the title. It's not the person with the best name, the highest title, the most money. It's the person who's just got this swarm of people around him moving with them in the direction that they're going. Right. And so that's what I think leadership looks like, so that we're trying to win on the economics while helping. When we employ people, we have accountability for their lives. I think that leadership has accountability. Can I tell you a story where I learned this?
Yeah, no, this is, I love it.
Okay, so I'm going to, in case this person ever watches this, I don't want to, as an executive, I helped another executive who reported to me realize that the job they were doing wasn't right for them, and perhaps maybe they should go find another job at another company. I'd done a nice kind of and it ended up ended up letting the person go. Right. Like it just didn't work out. Now I then went and talked with the chief operating officer, who was, I was the CFO, a guy named Mark Anger. I love this man. He's great. Okay. So Mark, and I'm telling him, and I walked in there like all proud, right? I got rid of that dude. That was my attitude. And because we all knew this person was not performing and it was just not the right fit. Great human, just not the right fit. Wonderful human being, and not the right fit. And I kind of was proud. And he goes, Adam, do you realize that this is your failure? I said, what do you mean? He goes, well, when you hired this thing, and when you hire somebody, you're bringing their family with them. You're not just impacting their life here at work. Right. There's no wall that is there. You're impacting their kids now, might have more clothes, better food. They go on better vacations. Right. You own that. And when you let somebody go, when that person, I'm not going to say the name, this person's spouse right now is really going to be struggling. Their kids are going to be struggling. They got to go find a job. This is your, I'm not celebrating this. This is your failure as a leader.
Wow. That's a gut shot. Just wow.
Right. So then you start thinking, I'm blessed because I really, Kaiser Permanente is an amazing company. They train you to be a facilitative leader, and most of their leaders are. So they train you to behave that way, right? To see that, my job was to create a high performing team. A guy named Chris Oman taught me that one day. He's like, yeah, man, your only job running our health plan is you don't do the work, you create a high performing team. So how do you create a high performing team? It's about facilitating them, creating an environment. Talk about sporting environment, right? You create an environment where folks are teammates, not competing with each other, where they got each other's back, where they'll do anything, where they want to hang out with each other after practice, right? All those, you want to, that's what your job is as a leader. And it's caring about their kids, knowing, when I ended up, when someone would do well, I'd write their mom a letter. That sort of stuff.
That's a coach recruiting thing. You're sending
I do that all the time.
I like that.
I just say, hey man, I want you to know, if I don't have my parents anymore, right? But I got the greatest gift any human being could have given my mother would have been someone at my work sending her a letter. She opens up a letter going, Mrs. Nemer, I just wanted you to know that I love working with Adam. He's such a wonderful leader and he helps me on a regular basis. You must be a great mom. Signed, blah, blah. That would have been the greatest thing ever. So I do stuff like that. That's your job as a leader, is to get to know you. I now want, here's this. How can I hire somebody and get them on the cheap? I want to hire someone, give them the highest salary I can give them.
Yes.
And afford it.
100%.
Help people. Yeah, it's just all these things that we historically, leaders have, unfortunately, a lot of traditional leadership and management practice were informed by the stigmas of mental illness. Leave emotions at the door, not supposed to talk about feelings at work. And so it creates this environment where leaders, in my language, just became assholes over time. The traditional leader, that blank executive stare. Yeah. It's just not nice. You can be happy in a leader at the same time and be really successful.
So, okay, with Simple Mental Health, with the company that you started and run, because you got me thinking now through a bunch of different areas. When you're delivering programs all over the place, consistency, and when I'm thinking from an athletic term, consistency is important. Authenticity, very important. Effectiveness, very important. How do you ensure that is kind of the case when you're dealing with some, businesses, kind of going through kind of the process? I mean, how do you ensure that the programming is across the board similar?
And how do we try to make it stick?
Yeah. How does it become effective? Because I know I've been in meetings and workshops with people, and it just, there's some that you're like, wow. And then there's some that you're like, it's kind of a waste. How much time do I got left? Do I need to sit through this?
There's a reason this thing is called Simple Mental Health.
Okay.
Getting help and getting better is hard work. It's a journey. It's a journey that I struggle with every day, 8 years later, right? But recognizing the signs, learning how to recognize the signs and approach me thoughtfully and non-judgmentally and help me guide me to services was so simple. A dude learned it at a class at his church one Sunday afternoon.
Right. It's true.
This shit is not complicated. Okay, so so actually what our programs are, I use that experience. So first, so we teach it in a simple, so let's talk about why this is so simple.
Okay.
So the first part of mental health literacy training that we talk about is how to recognize signs and symptoms, right? The signs and symptoms. So we ask a group of people, got 100 people, sit up at your table, and you got 5 people who got 10 tables. I want you to 1 minute. I want you guys to brainstorm at a table and have someone jot down all of the signs and symptoms of a mental health that someone might be struggling with their mental health that you just think of sitting at your table that you might have noticed. Mm-hmm. Right. So we give them a minute to do that. Then we have them raise their hand to see who has the most. Usually someone will have like 18 in a minute, right? Now I'll have that person at the table go through their list. And it's a great list. Person looks disheveled. They look differently. They might smell of alcohol in the morning. They're angry when they used to be quiet. They're quiet when they used to be blah, blah, all right. These various things that are just, we all know they're struggling sleeping. They're late to work. They're leaving early. Their lunches are longer. Right? And then we put the slide down of the signs and symptoms. And it's everything they just said. There's behavioral signs, emotion. Because the fact is that as human beings, we're just wired to recognize this stuff. We were just never in a class where someone said, yo, doofus, these things might mean that someone's struggling with their mental health and you can do something about it. They might not be. It could mean they just slept bad that night or they just stubbed their toe. Who the hell knows? It could be a lot of different things. So that first part of the class is unbelievably simple. Next part, how to approach somebody in a safe, thoughtful, caring, and non-judgmental manner. This is a little harder, but it's still, you learn a list of phrases. And you learn how to say, hey man, how are you doing? Are you doing okay? I've noticed you seem a little different these days. Blah, blah, X, Y, and Z. You have there's a few very simple phrases to use. And then there's how to guide somebody to help. Okay, Bryan. If someone has a toothache, where do you send them?
Dentist.
If your baby's sick, you call their
doctor, pediatrician. Yeah.
If you're talking with someone in your office and you're just inquiring and chatting with them, having a mental health literacy conversation, you're like, hey man, are you doing okay? I've noticed this and that. No, I'm kind of struggling. I think I'm really struggling with my mental health. Do you have any suggestion of who I might call or see? You would have them call a
therapist.
Hey! This training is so bloody simple. Call a therapist. Now, if you can't get to a therapist, call your primary care doc. And if you're not sure, you call your EP. And if it's a crisis, you call 988. That is the training. We just went over this training in 5 minutes. Okay. This is not rocket science knowledge.
Right.
It's just we know this stuff as human beings. No one just put the information together and said, hey, here's this knowledge that we already have. Right.
It actually is really simple.
It's unbelievably simple. So then what we do is you say, to your point, I'm a former operations executive too. So to me, it's all about change management. Change management is so you got to practice it. You got to use it. You go to a workshop and then you go back to work and then you don't keep using it. So what we do is after we go over the signs and symptoms. So we go over those signs and symptoms in 20, 30 minutes, right? 20, 25 minutes. And then we say, remember, it was because somebody like you was sitting in a class like this that my life got saved, right? David Lake was sitting in a class like this. They were going over the signs and symptoms, and he thought about me. I wonder if any of you right now are thinking about somebody in your life. I bet you are. I bet all of you are. And if you're not, I bet you could think of somebody. So that what we have them do is write on a sticky note in the workbook the name of somebody. And then we have a page in the workbook that's where they can frame out a conversation, where they write down what are the signs and symptoms you've noticed.
Right.
Okay? Then later when we talk about the words to use, we have them go in and write in what are some of the words they might use when approaching the person. When we talk about when and where to approach them, we have them go in and type and write into the workbook when and where. So now they have a framework to have a real life conversation, just like David had with me, right? And then we have them practice with somebody at the table, and we practice the conversation. So you leave this workshop having learned the simple information with a very simple action item that you can go. And the thing about this stuff is it's like anything. You just, once you have one conversation, the second one's easier, then the third one's easier. So my goal is to get people to leave this workshop and go have one scripted conversation that they're ready to have. And then boom. Think about it. It was because one person had one of those 5-minute conversations that 8 years later, we're talking today, baby. 5-minute conversations are powerful.
So, okay, I've got to ask you, I mean, you have to write a book about the whole experience. Is that ever come to mind?
I'm looking for a document that's behind my screen over there. Yeah, I have a book coming out this December. You did?
That's awesome.
You really didn't know that.
That's awesome. Now, I mean, because I'm just listening, just the conversation, and we've known each other before this, but just reiterating things that and learning things. I mean, obviously on this, I've learned a lot more than I did before. But I mean, just putting it to words. I mean, you can see I read a ton. I mean, I love books, and I love books about people. I'm not a fiction guy. Hey, this is real. And being able to share a story that's real, that's impactful, that's kind of added on. I mean, that's just
truth is stranger than fiction sometimes.
100%.
Isn't it amazing? I can you believe this dude's in a class. So David, this guy, he'd known me for 7 years. No, that's not true. For 3 years, he'd known me up to that point. And he's a loving, kind man, right? And he just, even David needed that little class just to say, oh, because once you have, also is when you roll out these classes, you get people self-select and they start getting help themselves.
Yeah. Yeah. Whatever happened to David? I mean, is he still in the role now? Now I'm curious about the guy.
Oh my God. Okay. So David is retired. And okay, so the last we chatted was about 6 months ago. And he and his wife run the I'm not sure what the title in the church is called, president of the stake, or they run the Mormon mission there, the Mormon missionaries in the Ogden, Utah area. People, Mormon missionaries from around the world, those that come to Ogden, he and his wife in their retirement run and are responsible for like 400 kids. I mean, he is the most beautiful human. Oh my God, the Lake family is the most beautiful people ever. I mean, he spent his whole career in this, duking it out. Healthcare, it's a hard industry, the healthcare industry, right? It's freaking brutal. And then like the health plan side, and now he's got to be working harder. It's harder for me to get him on the phone today than because he really is one of the most beautiful people that I mean, he's like a work brother, work dad. He's, one of the most important people in my life.
It goes to show you that no matter what the industry is, what the occupation is, there are people that have impact in your life, and you never know what impact they eventually will. So you got to make sure you're cautious on what you say. You got to be cautious on how you frame things. You really have to work at it. It can't be something that just, you do. I mean, I'm very hot-headed myself. I can absolutely relate to that. My early years of coaching, I know I said things that were hurtful, and I said things that I shouldn't have. And it's amazing, the older you get, the more wise you get, or at least try to, because you know how to kind of frame things a little bit better, but you have to learn how to do it.
Yeah, and there's just telling you.
No, it's
if I look at Marcy and David Lake, and I kind of have them as the vision of like part of that person that I want to be. It's like who's the person you want to be? and you take it from different people. There's a little bit of my grandpa, a little bit of my dad, a little bit of my mom, a little of my grandma, a little bit of Professor Gaines' post from college. And there's a damn big piece of it of David and Marcy Lake. And the Mark Angers and all the other great leaders I had the opportunity to work with.
Right.
Kaiser, the Karen Sharpmans. I'm a lucky guy.
I mean, this has been awesome, and everything good has to come to an end. But we're gonna finish things out.
You got it. With
a rapid fire wrap up. And so here's some quick questions, short and sweet. I got 5 of them. All right.
You got it.
First one, best piece of mental health advice you've ever received. I think I know that one.
If you think that you might be struggling with your mental well-being, call a therapist and ask for help.
One book or resource everyone should read on mental health. Is there one?
I haven't the foggiest idea.
What? How about you go to simplementalhealth.com? That might be a good place.
Every human being should read Siddhartha by Herman Hesse. Every human being should read that. And don't get me started. I have a top 10 for David's 60th birthday. My gift to him was I gave him my 10 favorite books.
That's awesome.
So Siddhartha, I gave him the Federalist Papers, the Constitution. One of my all-time favorite books is the Katharine Graham biography. Like you, I'm a history reader. Katharine Graham, the editor of the Washington Post. If you like history, best autobiography I have ever read. So it's like so my thing is it's like when I was in business, I didn't read business books. I don't know. My love is I'm a history guy. So if I am out of here and I'm reading stuff about history, and frankly, I get most of my leadership inspiration from history books more from anything else.
I can agree. If you could sit down on that topic, if you could sit down for coffee with any leader in history, who would it be? Who would that one person be?
Coach Wooden.
It's a good one. It's a very good one.
And I want Bill Walton there with us.
That would be an interesting.
Because if you had said who's the one person in the world I would have ever wanted to have met, it was Bill Walton.
Wow.
Kills me that I wasn't able to. He was, you know what he taught me on a podcast I heard him? Learn from the past, dream of the future, but live in the present.
Very famous quote from him. It's awesome.
That's on my list. I don't know if can you see the Bill Walton ball right there?
Yep. That's awesome.
Do you see it says Walton right? You see it's
in the corner over there, yes.
Right there. Every social media video I put out has Bill Walton in it. Got there. I don't know if you see this right here. This is my other little favorite.
Those knees would have held up. He would have been
feet.
A little bit more.
So Coach Wooden and Walton. That would not be amazing. Coach Wooden. That would be of success.
That would be a very intriguing. I would have liked to see Wooden's face with Walton today, but see his face kind of like, because I'm sure Walton would say some things that would be like, whatever. All right, 2 more questions.
Exactly. Yeah.
Go to activity when you need to clear your head.
I walk. I go for a walk.
And I walk right on my shoulder, the real walks. I love it.
That's right.
One word that sums up the mission for Simple Mental Health.
One word.
I figured that one might be the toughest question.
Simple.
It's hard to sum things up in one.
It reminds me. I walked into some guy's office once. This dude named Mike Kennard, and I'm like, "Hey, Mike, you got 5 minutes?" He goes, "Adam, it's never 5 minutes with you."
Well, the other one.
One word with it. It's
all right. Give me a phrase then.
What I want to do is I want simple mental health to be here. We're here. What I want to do is educate leaders on the business case and inspire them on the human case to become mental health literate and to normalize the topic of mental health in their companies.
That's awesome.
And that's what simple mental health is here to do, and to teach them how to do it with those 5-minute conversations. As the window washers over my shoulder are, apparently it's window washer day. If this goes for about 2 more minutes, you're going to start seeing some legs dangle down.
That will be a very interesting one. That's going to be the episode for today of Just a Cup on the Believe Network. It's huge thanks to Adam Nemer for sharing his journey and insights in mental health. On Just the Cups, they're always organic. They're always off the cuff. It's not a scripted kind of situation. It's you get real answers from real people, and that's why I love it. And of course, special thanks to the sponsor, SciOptimal, your precision-based assessments for mental optimization and mental health. Visit scioptimal.com to learn more. And if you enjoyed today's conversation, make sure you subscribe to Just a Cup on the Believe Network, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or really wherever you listen to shows. I know there's 5 million different ones. And you can also watch the full videos on YouTube and then LinkedIn. So thanks for listening. Next time, keep chasing performance, purpose, and have a great cup of coffee or tea with somebody, and maybe even go for a walk with them. Adam, thanks. Appreciate you.
Have a cup of coffee with this guy.
That's awesome.